Welcome everybody to our May Masterclass.
Good morning from Melbourne, Australia. It's lovely to be with you guys this morning.
Yeah, beautiful sunny day to be here.
Hey Laura, how are you?
Morning everyone. Okay, we want to get into a little bit of an update of where we are. We've had a couple of questions already, which we will get to probably at the end of our masterclass today in case anything else comes up. Also, the other thing that we'd like to talk a little bit about is good morning from Saritha and Raghu in Singapore.
Hi guys.
And talking about Singapore, yes, we've just been to Singapore recently. We're back this week. We had our transformation workshop there, and also an advanced course called Infinitude. And we had a great group there. Probably, dare I say, the most awake group we've had in Singapore.
They were really good.
They were very, very good. So it was good to see them all there. And
lots of old friends and some new ones.
Yes, absolutely. And there are quite a few things happened. There was a few reasons why we were over there. We were heading over for a workshop, obviously. But the other thing was that we were going to see our teachers, Max and Corolla,
at the Thailand project.
We were sitting down, and I guess it was a bit of a talk fest to discuss what we were doing in our businesses. Because one of the things Grab Voice says is that for eternal development and to build on the platform of the macro rescue is that business should look to be ecological, it should involve partners, it should be for the better of all involved. And so we were in Thailand to talk about how we could move forward to help them with their business, how can we work as a team. And they have had their own master license with Grabavoy, and Grabavoy has actually asked them to certainly extend the Asian region. And we were going there to talk about how we can help them support that. And so even though we have licenses already with Grabavoy with his publishing house, EHL, we've also signed some licenses with the Thailand project.
We just formalised what's been there for a long time.
Yeah, we've had an informal relationship, and now it's more formalised. So anyway, so we're well and truly that. Good morning, Vivian, this morning. So we were having a little chat about that. So that was our primary thing, and then we went down to Singapore. I'd like to just share, is there a video today? Yes, I don't know. Are you not seeing a video today?
Oh, no. Are you seeing a video today? Are you playing a video today is the question.
Are we showing a video today? Yes, I've just shared my screen with you. So can you just confirm that you are seeing the video today? So this is our friendly group that we had from Singapore that was joining us, and they're a great group. The other thing I'd like to share with you is also just some testimonials we've had, because we've had some very good ones. Also, can you just let me know that you're able to see the screen that I'm sharing with you, so that we know you're able to see. So anybody that wants to put in the chat box that they can see the screen, please let me know. The other thing that we wanted to talk about was what people are experiencing. So
they can see it.
Good. Cool. Everybody can see us. Great. Good. So let me just talk about a few testimonials that we have, because really there's some amazing things that people are doing. This is from our friends in Singapore, Saritha and Raghu. Raghu sent me a testimonial during the week to say, I was bothered by neck and back pain for about 2 months when I came across the healing method using the number technology. I spent $5,000 on mattress and pillows, which promised to solve this issue for me. It did not help. Finally, I used the number code for the problem. My pain disappeared within 15 minutes and never came back. Thank you so much for sharing this incredible technology. And that's from Singapore. Another really good one that came from the US, I'm sure Juanita won't mind me sharing. Thank you once again for 2 enlightening seminars. I'd like to comment on those who believe these tools are not working. I'd like to say them, keep working with them and try not to put their consciousness to the test. I have had so many huge shifts and continue to do so. While I am using these mainly for my own personal development, I used just one on a client, completely dissolving a 6mm cancerous growth on her face. Apparently it crusted and dropped off within 2 days, and by her next visit there was nothing there. And a couple of weeks later she complained of pain in her ovaries, which her doctor confirmed was because of cysts. Again, I used the same tools and her pain was gone, and she was also sensed some big change. Soon after, she reported that she had passed a golf-size mass while on her menses, and yesterday she told me that she had been to the doctor and had a scan which revealed that both her ovaries were clear. So they're great, some really great testimonials.
Really cool.
Juanita is a very advanced person, obviously, but still, again, we say to all of you is the main thing is that you need to see the result and stop trying. You don't need to go out there and do it on other people. But I just wanted to share that with you because so many times we do a control and then are waiting for it to turn up and then start questioning when it hasn't turned up in the time frame. So please just be mindful of that as well. If you have any questions along the way today, please could just pop it in the chat box and we will get to you because we will have time for questions and answers. So we want to talk about the foundation for a control after Juanita's comment. And there are certain things that you need to be aware of when you start to do a control. The first is you need to be stress-free. There's no point doing the control because you're feeling that you have to do it and you're all wound up from the day. So it's best to be calm and centered. And sometimes you might say in this current climate is as far as all the unrest, especially with things that have happened over our part of the world where we've had so much in the papers about the 2 Australians that were executed this week in Indonesia. Certainly what's happened in Nepal as far as the earthquakes and the devastation. So it's really, sometimes hard when you're engaged in the external reality. So, even doing something that will center you or, having a nice lavender bath or something like that. So at least you're in a state of being calm when you're doing it. The other thing is to be clear on your objective. So your objective should be concise. It should be as if I can understand it if I didn't know anything about Russian knowledge. If you said to me, this is my objective, harmonize my relationship or restoration of my function of my eyes. Something that's very clear, not waffly, and this is what you're going to focus on when you do your actual technique.
Actually, it's really interesting. A lot of people complain because they're not quite getting what they desire in their lives, but they're not setting strong enough or concise enough objectives. They just allow things to keep rolling over, and your past programs and your upbringing, your culture, and mass consciousness will continue to run things unless you take over.
Yeah, so, when we go through doing a control, even though we might use different techniques, and we'll go through a couple today, the thing that's important is to hold in the background your objective at the same time you're doing control. So it's like splitting your consciousness a little bit. Yesterday, there was the concentration on the little finger of the right hand. And it says in that 31-day concentration, focus on the finger of your right hand. So your external thoughts are focusing on the little finger, but at the same time, in the remote part of your consciousness, go to your desired event. And your desired event is whatever your objective is. So your focus is on the finger, but your objective is on what you're wanting the control to do. And so they're two things of how to practice that. But you need to be clear.
Let's face it, we all did that when we were in school. We were focused on the teacher out the front, and at the same time we're out in the playground playing. It's not new for us. We just need a little reminder, a little practice.
Yep, absolutely. So holding your objective is one of the key things when doing a control. The next thing is all your questions must be answered. So if your left brain is giving you a whole series of questions and what happens and whatever, you need to get them sorted out before you do a control. And saying your objective up front is a little bit like telling your left brain what you're going to do. So if it's harmonizing your relationship with a person, that's what your objective is, and I'm going to use the tool cylinder of ice. Now your left brain knows what you're going to do and with one tool, and then that needs to be put away. But if you're going to go back and start hearing questions, then you need to satisfy your questions before you actually...
Yeah, without falling into the question, because you don't want to be going around and round and doing that. It's kind of what you call the left brain tango, where you're tossing from one side to the other.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing is you have to believe that the control is done. You have to believe that these tools actually work. And how you believe that is that you then start on your small practices of getting results, like we did when we used the cube cone cube on the water. Very much so. If you can change the water and you could taste that, then obviously you can change everything. The only difference is that you're not having a physical taste, but it still happens. The next thing is to accept that the control is done. Sometimes people keep checking, to look in the external reality. One of the things that we've said in our advanced class, and I'll mention it here, and I probably might have said it in some of the training with you guys, is that you can have a control running in the background. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's a bit like when Grabavoy says, focus on the little finger of your right hand, and in the remote part of your consciousness, think of your desired event. Well, you can place in the remote part of your consciousness the control, and every so often during the day, you check just to see how that control looks, depending on what tool you're using. And you notice whether there's making a change. Last time we talked to you about the sphere of Grabavoy's teaching and then placing your objective underneath it in another pastel colour sphere with your birth month in between. And the concentration was to look at the light coming from the sphere of Grabavoy's teaching into the sphere below and noticing what's happening. Now, you could have that control running in the background, and you have a look in your remote area of your consciousness, just in your dreaming or your daydreaming state, and just say, how does that look? Does it look, or do I sense that it's all glowing now, or is that sphere still a little dense? So you can run things in the background and just check.
And that doesn't mean that you get all uptight because whatever your objective is hasn't materialized yet. It's being in a state of observation or observing rather than regurgitating. So many times I hear participants or people say, oh, but the control hasn't happened. Oh, the control doesn't work. And that in its own right shuts the control down. So it's really important to be the observer of that activity rather than diving into it. Just let the control do its work. If necessary, do another control using another technique on the same outcome.
One of the things we were discussing with Max and Krolla, because we were talking about this, and the thing is, if you can imagine a sphere, and every time you do a control, say for instance with your body, if the light in your cell isn't up to its full potential, meaning that the cell is operating at 100% to the norm of the creator. Each time you do a control, it's like adding a little bit more light. Now, some people's lights are really strong and they do a control and it's as if that area or that sphere or the cell is now, the light is fully on to 100%. But sometimes people's consciousness are not quite there yet. And so only you're adding a little bit of light each time. And of course, if they're adding a little bit of light and then they're saying, well, it's not working because I haven't seen it, it's only because you're needing to practice a little bit more.
Because once you've done the control in the spiritual level, it's already done. It just takes sometimes, depending on your light quota, a little bit of time for it to turn into reality on a physical level.
And we know it can be done because so many people in our workshops, we're in face to face to them. You can see it in their face. You can see the light go on. They're telling you that they're getting a result. Just like I shared those 2 testimonials with you, the people are getting results. So it's not that if it's for you and you're not seeing things speedy enough, it's not that you're doing it badly or you've done something wrong. It's just that you need to focus a little bit more and maybe concentrate or do the controls a little bit more. So stop testing your consciousness to see whether it's turned up because, as I said, it's happened. We've seen it. It's happened in our life. It's happened for so many. The other thing we wanted to talk about was the macro rescue. When in the control we talk about rescue and harmonious development, when we actually say those words in a control, when we say those words, we know we're talking about rescue and harmonious development for the planet and humanity, so that as they move forward, that things are unfolding in a harmonious way instead of how it has been in the past where there've been challenges and hurdles to get over. When we say the words rescue and harmonious development, it erases the signals of the collective consciousness. Now, what does that mean? Well, we have many thoughts that we send out into the information field. It can be personal things, like every time women sometimes look in a mirror and they start examining their body and it's not quite how you want.
Hang on. You do not have the right to be critical of yourself.
Well, I know that, but sometimes
yes,
you look in the mirror and you think, oh my God, where did that roll of fat come from?
What roll of fat? I thought you did a control and it disappeared yesterday.
So sometimes we're really hard on ourselves in our mind. Go, like, what happened to you? Why didn't you go to the gym this week? You shouldn't have had that extra piece of cheesecake, So sometimes we
I thought it was the eclair, actually.
Yeah, but also, especially for global events, in Australia there has been massive amount of information in the media, especially about the Bali 2 people that were executed. I mean, obviously they did something wrong in their past where they got, were involved in heroin and other drugs being trafficked. But, certainly there has been a lot of focus on their rehabilitation. So everybody's consciousness had been thinking, into either divided in 2 camps. Yes, it should have happened, and then some people saying, oh, but people need a second chance, and look what they've done, and those terrible, that terrible leader in Jakarta and in Bali and the president and how inhumane he is. And so there's been a lot of negative signals sent into the collective consciousness. We do it every day when we also, yell at a driver who's cut past us. Get off the road, you idiot. So
you need lots of rescue and harmonious development.
No, I don't say that. I'm very harmonious. So
since when?
Yeah. So
you're hitting me.
So erase. So also rescue and harmonious erases and harmonise any signals that you put accidentally into the collective consciousness, because sometimes we don't consciously put signals there. So when we were talking about this with Max and Corolla, it really, really anchored for me how important it is to, even if you're not doing a control, even just saying the words rescue and harmonious development for the planet and all humanity is in itself as I said, sending a signal into the information field. Let's change things.
It was very much another dimension that Corolla added when we were discussing this, of actually neutralizing all of that inharmonious noise that goes on in our minds. As you said, the driver that cuts you off, or the that type of instance.
Sure, it's interesting.
Or just flicking at the paper or the news when some politician says something stupid, and it seems to happen hourly.
Yeah. Laura was just put a comment in the question box here, just say that her intuition is increasing more and more and more. So one question that Renee had put in here is, do you have a control to know your life purpose? Well, your life purpose, as we've discussed previously, is what is missing in your birth date, the numbers that are missing in your birth date. So your life purpose through the events of your life are to master the missing numbers that are actually in the control. So there are things you can do. For instance, Renee, you could harmonize the relationship that you have with yourself. You can either do that in a control, or there are number series or number codes that relate to harmonizing the past, present, and future, or harmonizing events. You'll find many of these number codes in the psychological norming books. There are 2 psychological norming books. You also can get them as a physical book, but as a e-book. I have both, but I like the e-books because if you're specifically looking for a word, and somebody emailed me and said, is there a number code for guilt? And, when you've got a book in front of you, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, because it's not always just look up the word guilt and you'll find it. So I put in the search area guilt, and it'll turn up all the pages where that word actually is shown in the book. And then I can then scroll through and work out which is the one that's relevant to do. So they're probably a couple of the core books you need to happen, because when you change your consciousness, you change things that are happening also in your physical body. So
that's I agree totally with you. Your numbers and your birth date show you what you are here to master. But also the other consideration is that really our soul's mission is to increase its connection, or our connection with our higher selves or our souls, and lift our resonance, because it's important that we vibrate or operate from our hearts and lift our vibration up above 528, so that we can help just by being. We don't have to go out there and do something physically, but just by being in that state of acceptance and love and compassion, we will radiate at 528 or higher, moving towards 700 hertz, which is enlightenment. We will lift the rest of humanity up. We will repair the planet just by our own vibration. And that's kind of the what I see as our key objective. And the others are stepping stones for us to reach that.
And you will find that when you're on path, when things are on the path that you're supposed to take as part of your journey, then beautiful synchronistic things happen. Like the doors just open. It's easy. It doesn't feel like a challenge. And the other part is your spirit actually gives you the drive towards whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing. You just have a knowing, and you just feel compelled to move forward in a certain direction. So there's no magic number that will help you find your life purpose. That's why we're here on Earth. We're here to experience through interaction in the external world.
I guess the other thing to consider is the stepping away from the duality, stepping into what I call oneness, or you call unity consciousness, where we are operating from a place of connection, using the informative center, building on that relationship, whatever it is for you that allows you to connect more and more with your intuition, your inner self or higher self. The more of that you do, the more you bring in light, the more you resonate. And that's really, from my view, what we're here for.
The other thing is when you start to work and develop your intuition and you start to work with your information center, then that's a tool to help you, to guide you along the way. So if you're unsure about what direction or you should follow this, you have that connection with your soul, your intuition, your gut feel, which is your informative center, to, do I move ahead in this direction, or is this a harmonious path that I follow if I do this? And you hear the yes and no questions pretty quickly so that you start to do that. And it's quite often when you're in a state of quiet, and it's interesting, probably the best time for me when I get a lot of intuitive things, it's when I'm just getting to bed and I'm starting to quiet down, and a lot more intuitive things will come through.
That's the opposite for me. It's when I'm sitting in the morning and having my coffee and doing my journaling. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So
I suppose we all have our own individual way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's just, I've noticed for me when some more things start to come through. Also, Sari in Japan asked, please share some numbers or controls for lower back pain, which pops up whenever there is excessive worry, stress, and anxiety. These past 2 days, I could feel my lower back about to bend forward. I work with kids weekly, and there are 2 groups that I'm not connected, losing control, and that is affecting my back with sharp pain at times, with forward bending movements in bending. So, your lower back is about being supported. And so this is very much something that's happening in your consciousness. So there are number series for control of events. Actually, I will put up some number series. Let me see if I can get to them right now, because there are some that I use quite a lot, and people ask me, what ones should I use to harmonize things. So I have a standard program. I use the Soul of the Earth for me, but there are standard numbers which I found that could harmonize. For instance, harmonizing the past. The number series for that is 78190194225. So that's 78190194225. Harmonizing of the present. The number codes for that is 71042. Again, 71042. Harmonizing of the future. 148721091. Again, 148721091. Correction of events of the past, present, and future. 91431289. Again, it's 91431289. Restoration time for events of the past. And this has a segregated number, has space. So it's 498 space 719 space 418. Again, that is 498 space 719 space 418. Addressing events. So here's probably one that's good for you. Sorry. So it is 28914801890498. Again, 28914801890498. Removal of blockages. This is probably another good one for those feelings that you're under pressure with your back. 91688. Removal of blockages, 91688. So they're probably some of the key ones. A really good one also for self. So
I was thinking freedom, actually.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah,
Freedom.
from like what I was getting from Siri is really there's a lot of noise in the matrix, and there's a lot of what do you want to call it? A lot of heaviness in the matrix for her. So to having that sense of freedom, peeling off that overcoat of clutter,
yes, could help.
Could help a lot.
So here's the number series for freedom: 51489.
489.
Sorry, 51489 4719. Again, 51489 4719. Good one for harmonizing yourself. 549817. Again, 549817. And a really nice one for the emotional matrix, to harmonize the emotional matrix with numbers, is 819 gap 319 981 3191. Again, 819 gap space 319 813 191. So there's some of the numbers that I use generally, even when it's to do with harmonizing of things for my physical body, but also external environment. So I always start with them. Yes. So, and you like Brian's sense of humour. Yes, sometimes I do. Not generally when I'm annoyed, though. So it was really interesting when we were in Singapore. The room that we were in the Orchid Club.
The first room, yeah.
The first room was very dense. So there was a lot of information that was there, or negative energy that was in the room, and it was really affecting.
There was a restaurant and
there was a
wedding
really,
or something.
There was a wedding going on downstairs, but apart from that, the room was. And how we could feel that was, you could notice, like I certainly felt it. I noticed that participants in the room were feeling it. And we have...
well, they were complaining. They was not noticing. They were saying, it's really heavy in here.
Yes, and some of them were yawning, and it was only early in the morning, and it wasn't that it was a boring presentation. But so it was interesting because Brian and one of the students who helps us in Singapore, Jasper.
Cool, Jasper.
He's
a lovely guy.
So he helps us behind the scenes. And so Brian and Jasper were clearing the room the whole time. And it was like doing a battle, I guess. You were trying to clear, and we were trying to clear
it. You clear it, and you close the gateways or portals, and half an hour later, somebody would have reopened them. They're back, and it was heavy, and start again. And so for those of you guys that thought we were just sleeping on the side, we were working exceptionally hard.
So one of the things that's important to realise is that...
Actually, this was quite funny because I had my computer up and I saw that Max in Thailand project was online. I just texted him and said, I'm experiencing this. You've done a lot. You've run a lot of these workshops. What have you done? And he came back to me and said, Brian, instead of sending love, be love. So be in a state of love. So instead of going external on the room, go internal on yourself. And it was really funny because Jasper was also on his phone texting another friend of ours in Singapore who we call the Oracle, because she just loves Grabber Voice books and has read all of them a dozen times. And Jasper got back the same information. Stop going external, go internal. So we both turned each screen to each other and laughed because both Max and the Oracle were both telling us exactly the same thing. And it was really interesting because we just very quietly over 5 minutes, went very quiet, went very internal, and our light expanded and the room went quiet.
So
it was instant. It was really cool.
So for those of you who are practitioners or who run workshops, normally what happens is that the facilitator of that process is
Or their
team is holding the light for the rest of the room, is expanding themselves into the room and giving. And especially when you're a practitioner or you're a facilitator, you're giving of your knowledge, you're giving of your experience. And so it was really interesting because also then I had to focus on, for me, is being, while I'm doing a presentation, is to bring my energy from expanding in the room to back to me. And I just had to focus. I just had to bring my awareness to my heart area. And I just kept thinking of light in the heart area, which then helped to bring back more of that, and the room started to settle.
And both Jasper and I are going, thank you for the reminder, because we knew it, but when you get caught up in workshop after workshop, presentation after presentation, you forget.
Yeah, you sometimes forget because Brian's is a very big giver. So yeah,
Are you trying to tell me something?
No, you're very generous. You're very generous. So
and you're not.
Well, yes, it was a good lesson for both of us. So Renee said she purchased the first ebook and had a lot of psychological illnesses, and it was not a help.
Not a help. That's interesting.
Oh, okay. Do you repeat the name of the author of the books? Yes, the author of the books is Grigori Grabovoi. So Grigori, Grabovoi, Grabovoi, Grigori Grabovoi. He's does lots of has written so many of the books. This is where the Russian knowledge is coming from. It's not that it's new knowledge at all. It's not new knowledge. It's not new knowledge. It's just remembering what we know in our hearts. We're just remembering what our soul has. And at the moment, Grabovoi is just showing through science where science and spirituality meet. And he has written a number of books that are basically guiding us and showing us how to get back to that state that we've all forgotten. And said, so the theory is to master the numbers you do have or don't have, or both. So besides raising your vibe and being loved. So the thing is to master your missing numbers, because your birth date is your gifts. That's what you bring to the world. But it's the numbers that you are missing that you are harmonizing and becoming a master of. And it happens generally as your journey in life. If for some people who are in their 60s or 70s, when we do the number codes, or even younger, and we say, oh, here's your missing numbers, and you say, well, how are you going with this? And they go, oh yeah, I've got that one. So we generally do it automatically, but now this is like the key to know exactly where you put your focus.
Yeah, rather than if you turned up at age 15 when you're just coming out of adolescence, and you knew what you had to master to become a developed being back then, you do it a lot quicker.
Absolutely. So Renee was just asking, do we put these numbers on a body or a piece of paper and look at it? You can do either all of those,
or both.
You can write them on your body, or you can write them on a piece of paper and keep them close to you, or you can concentrate. And the beauty of the number codes is your consciousness doesn't even have to be developed. It's like
light language.
It's light language. So your soul and your consciousness understand the language of the harmony of those numbers. Even if you're in the process of developing your consciousness, it works whether you believe it or not, because numbers are universal. Everybody understands numbers. You don't get them wrong in any way. Can we have a copy of this sheet? The sheet that I have made up for myself. Yes, I could do that. I could do that. But remember, I've just gone through the books like you have, but I will endeavour to send that to you. Good.
What was that last one?
So Anne just said, great story. So
okay.
Thank you. Renee said, I bought this book. It was not okay. Just Deborah. So thank you. Very helpful about the light and teaching group classes soon and concerned about holding the light in the class and have a big question. Feel much more positive about how to be me in the class, because it's very important, because when you are giving as a facilitator, and I noticed this, sometimes we did 5 days of teaching, and my physical body was really feeling that.
Oh, it was 5 days of teaching plus how many air flights?
Yeah, and a few air flights. So the Matrix, that was good. I'm just seeing what Anne's saying. After the first soul class, I bought the 2 psych books, one called Concentration Exercise, which is the same as the Daily Number series you told us. Yep. And the business book. Yep. Good. And Anne's saying, have not had enough time to practice either class or books due to overwork. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So let's have a look what else we're going to talk about, apart from being the light instead of...
Actually, Anne brings up a good point there. It really is interesting how our time gets stolen by activity or by family or by work or by busyness, and we don't tend to make time for us, time for our own development, and putting that first straight after eating and bathing.
Yeah. So it's...
and I did say you need to eat and bathe.
You need to, thanks. So, in the business success numbers, there are some numbers for restoring time and also transforming time into money. So
they're useful.
There are a couple of useful.
Actually, the business book you'll find interesting. I always recommend to people to read the last 2 chapters first and then start at the front again. Yeah. It is I've read it 6 times so far, and it's a real jump in consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing I want to talk about is when we were between workshops in Singapore, we headed over to Kuala Lumpur to catch up with our friend Professor Dr. Leslie Yap, who is
Professor Dr.
Yes, he's got so many professors and doctors after his name. He's probably the top person we've met in our area in resonance medicine, which is really good, because he caters to the people who really have that show me and then I'll believe it attitude. So we did some live blood analysis under a dark microscope, and with just a drop of blood, if anybody's never had this done before. And the top picture on this slide is what the blood looked like before.
The first sample.
The first sample. And this shows that the blood cells, they should be lovely, beautiful spheres, all separate, were in fact clumped together in long chains.
So what causes this is our daily lives, is being around mobile phones, Wi-Fi, smart meters, all of that electronic noise, and not necessarily, and a lot of stress does it also, causes this clumping. And the downside of this is that we don't get enough oxygen around the body. The second photo, the after photo down the bottom, actually shows lots of little spheres, which allows the oxygen molecules to stick to the cells and travel through carry the oxygen through the blood to the organs and the systems. And it's very important that we move to a state of normal blood functionality. But what we were seeing here, and from our own experiences with our own blood work, jumping on and off planes, having phones in our pockets, the body gets bombarded, and here it is in front of us, in pretty much not quite black and white, but is the effects of it. And we ran some experiments, and it was interesting because the first experiment, we did a control for 5 minutes, and we got a marginal improvement.
So this was the bottom picture?
Bottom picture. That was after 15 minutes.
That was after 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So what
doing a control.
Of doing a control. So what we were focusing on, we certainly went back and changed the past as to why our blood was not functioning in the norm, and then we actually focused on a tool in our consciousness. and we put the focus for 15 minutes to notice what changes actually happened. And it's, as Brian said before, it's very important to oxygenate the blood, because when you have a lot of oxygen in your system, you don't have any disease in the body at all. So
if there's any threat of cancer, oxidized body, cancer cells can't live.
Yeah. So and you'll read many of the Grabovoi books, and the Russians, when we've studied with them, talk about how important it is to harmonize our blood and the blood function.
Yeah, and the Des says that a lot.
She goes on about that. So the next thing that we did, because I wasn't quite happy with that result, so the next thing we did was then focus for an hour. So I put my focus on just changing the blood, and did my concentration in the background, but focusing on a lot of it for in an hour. And this is the bottom picture, is the change of it. They started to get all beautifully, and so this is without doing any breathing or taking oxygen enhanced. This is just my consciousness changing what happens with it. And so the reason why we wanted to show you this was to really say that it does work. Here's another piece of evidence that that the creator knowledge actually works, that it actually, you are making changes even if you can't see it. Okay, so Renee, yeah, that's fine. So
I guess I'm in two minds whether it was the duration of focus that enables the cells to break up into nice spherical cells, not clumped. Was it the time of the focus, or was it allowing enough time for the blood to get around the body to break up? So
yeah,
it's either way. I guess it took about an hour for the cells to get back to a normal state.
Yeah. So Renee just had a question before, because she sort of came in after we had finished all our soul code and work with Judy Anderson. And Renee, in the work that we did on soul code, we taught people how to get in touch with their information center, which is the part of your soul that holds all the information. So this is what you call your higher self, if you like. This is how we started to communicate, we activated it, and then we just start asking simple yes and no questions.
Well, you're rerunning Soul Code next month, aren't you?
She's already bought that. So have a look at that, and you'll see the informative center. That's very much it. Also, Sayuri said, do you have numbers that would represent or recreate properties of gemstones? I would like to place numbers for emeralds, diamonds, blue sapphires on my body. These stones are representative of my astrological planets. So I don't. All I know Grabovoi is bringing out books for animals. As I have, there is a website that Grabovoi has. It's called grig.com. I'll just put it in the chat box so that you can see it all.
Grig.com.
Grig.com. This is where this is Grabovoi's publishing house, and all his new books come out there. So I'm not sure, Suri, whether there are number series coming out for stones. I'm not aware of it, but there might be. And also our friends in Singapore, what is a good control for preventing of EMF impacts on the body?
Clear your matrices and beefing up your shields.
Yeah, so shields of life, and also your luminous square, which is, I think we did that in transition.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That was the course after Soul Code. And also we also have some little EMF cards that we carry around with us anyway, to also put against our phone, just to make sure that we don't.
And you can certainly get them from Professor Leslie.
Professor Leslie, and there are some other people that do it. So we do it physically protection, but we also do it from using the Russian knowledge. So that's the live blood. Now, we wanted to talk about things because also in our little chat with Max and Corolla, we were running through an update. I was just,
Actually, you always say Max and Corolla. Why isn't it Corolla and Max?
I don't know.
She's the boss.
She's the boss.
I
don't know. Well, I don't know. Anyway, that's true. I should say Corolla and Max.
Max, yes.
Anyway. It's really like, why don't people say Marion instead of Brian?
Well, that's easy.
You're not the boss. I just like to let you think you are.
I thought it was the other way. I thought you thought you were the boss.
I am. You've got to get that right. So we were talking with Corolla and Max about, we're looking at my slides compared to what they're doing. And they haven't got this particular slide, but we were talking about this further. We're talking about how the information or the informative...
Actually, that was a really good conversation because it brought up more layers that we hadn't considered and also that they hadn't considered.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a nice pat on the back when Corolla says, can I have your slides?
Yes. So we always talk about we go back and change things at the informative, the information level, that this then is comes into our reality as light and then into our consciousness, which affects the energy, which can affect us emotionally.
No, sorry, which we perceive emotionally.
We perceive emotionally or mentally. But also our emotions and our mental state also produce energy. So a couple of times there's energy changing, one that's coming through in our consciousness as light, but also what we are creating on our emotional and mental level. That's also affecting the energy.
Otherwise known as clutter.
That also affects the chemical level that turns up in the physical body. And it was really interesting because we had a big chat about that, and then I said to Brian, you're right. Not only does it, the light affect energy, but we also affect what's happening through our emotional and mental. And it was like...
No wonder our poor higher self doesn't get a Guernsey, because the higher self sends the information through the informative level down through consciousness, energy, hits the emotions. And you can imagine the emotional clutter that we've all got from culture, religion, our own upbringings that spin. No wonder we have trouble manifesting.
Yes.
Although I did manifest you.
Yes, you did manifest me. That was very good. So that led us to... So that was like a little aha moment. And then I noticed during the workshop my body was starting to get really affected, and also the travel. And I'm thinking, why is this? I've really recentered myself on the matrices. I've really done quite a lot. Why am I still experiencing this change in my physical body? Why am I still getting affected by it? And then I came home and I said to Brian, have you ever thought to look at your energetic matrix? Because we do all the other matrices. We do the physical, we do the emotional, we do the mental, we do the causal, we do the etheric, which I would presume would clear up everything. But have you looked at your emotional matrix? And I asked Brian to have a look at his consciousness, at his emotional matrix, and recenter himself. And he looked at it and he said, oh gosh, it really looks,
cluttered.
Very, very dense and very cluttered. And so
and I do this a couple of times a day.
Yeah, so it was very interesting. And then we were sharing with Saritha, who was one of our students, very advanced student in our Singapore workshop. And we were sharing with her during the week on Skype, and we're talking about this. And she emailed me back and she said, funny, when I recentered my energetic body, when I went to check the mental and the emotional, in fact, they were already centered. Maybe this is a shortcut for recentering the body.
All right, you and your shortcuts.
Yeah. So it made me think about it, as far as the time and space matrix that we use for recentering ourselves. And this really answers Sayuri's question about when there's a lot of information in her and a lot of noise that's going around her, and the noise is getting caught up, your head's very busy, you're feeling stressed. That's just indications that there's information in your field,
and that information can be cultural, that information can be what's the word when you obligation.
Yeah.
Often we sacrifice ourselves for the obligation that we have, obligation to our employment, obligation to our clients, obligation to our family, but we keep forgetting about the core obligation we have is to take care of ourselves and love ourselves and protect ourselves and harmonize ourselves. We always leave that till last. There's always enough time for everybody else, but not a lot of time for self.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're all learning to put ourselves, I guess, first and not everybody else, which is really important. So that then brought me to this question about our energy body. And I'd like to just go through this as an exercise without recentering any of the other bodies that we talk about when we do the time and space matrix. And let's do this as a control, as a realignment onto the new creator matrix, and then have a looking once we get onto that new matrix for any cloudiness or darkness or any dark crystals that might have followed us across.
And we also should, just to harmonise that cursing that we did yesterday, rescue and harmonious development for the planet and all mankind.
So first of all, before we recenter ourselves, I want you in your area of your consciousness to ask to see your energy matrix.
This is our first control of the day.
Yes, sir.
So we are in spirit. We see an act as the Creator sees an act. Rescue and harmonious development for the planet and all mankind.
So let's have a look at our energy matrix. So in your consciousness, ask to see your energy matrix. And then in that matrix, just notice, what does it look like, or what does it feel like for all those who are more senses? Does it sort of feel that there's cloudiness there? Does it look dense, or could you imagine it almost looking like there's boulders or dark rocks there? So just get a sense of what is there already. And once you've been able to do that, then we're going to create a duplicate matrix, but this is the matrix of the creator in representing your energy body. So we now create a duplicate copy, a creator matrix representing your energy body. And then what we're going to do is pull out off the information, or you might see yourself as a little person on the first matrix. Or a dot, whatever it is.
A sphere.
Just imagine pulling that information off, whatever you look like, and placing it dead center on the creator matrix for your energy body. The first matrix now drops away because you are no longer on it. It does not exist. And to fix yourself in the middle, you're going to send 3 impulses of light. A silver white impulse of light from your soul, a gold impulse of light from the creator, and rose pink light from spirit. These all come from the area of your chest, generally, from your heart area. So that's fixing.
And if they don't worry, it's fine.
Yeah, if it's coming from somewhere else, that's fine. But now that you've recentered yourself in that new creator matrix, have a look around in that matrix and notice, has there been any negative information that's still come across with you? So it will turn up and you might sense it or see it as darkness or greyness or cloudiness, or it might feel like there's something in there or feel like it's heavy. You might see it as, dark crystals or rocks or whatever it is for you. And once you've identified or sensed that there's some information there, then we're going to use the cube of mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
This is a cube that has mirrors just on the inside, and it's a silver cube. It has the formula E equals VS on the outside. And you're going to give it the objective. You're going to place it around the time and space matrix in reference to your energy body. So in fact, the matrix is now inside the cube. And you give the objective to the E equals VS cube of mirrors to shrink in and capture all negative information. So in your consciousness, either see or sense as this box shrinks in
through all times and all spaces
of the time-space matrix in reference to your energy body until it forms a little cube in front of your heart. And then once it forms a little cube in front of your heart, then you just gesture it to the Creator for further development, meaning that He will take the negative information and turn it to light. It's already happening once it's in the cube, because it sees itself, negative information sees itself in the mirror and starts to attack itself and starts to turn to light. So once you've done that and you've captured all the negative information, and I want you now then to go back into
gesture to the Creator.
Yep, I want you to go back into your energy matrix and just see or sense what it feels like or looks like. When it's clear for people that are who are visuals, it's like every intersection in the matrix is sparkling. All the cross lines and the horizontal lines, vertical and horizontal lines, are all sparkling gold. For those of us who are feelers like myself, you'll just feel like it's lighter or something has shifted, or you'll sense that there's nothing in there at all. And just to be aware of how you felt before, and then how do you feel now that you've actually recentered that. So I'd love to hear back from some people afterwards.
My matrix is silver.
You're silver.
Where's yours gold?
Oh, because
you're special.
I'm special. I'm more connected to the Creator because I've got 2 9s and you've only got one. So Anne just put here before, just talking about before, she got the book Pink Cover, Restoration of the Human Organism. Yes, Anne, that's probably one of my Bible books that I use all the time.
Marianne's Bible.
Yes. So Eva said, what tool of control precisely did you use to change your blood? For me, I just picked something that was really easy, and it was a cone cube that I used with the objective for restoration of my blood to the Creator's norm. And I just placed it in the area of my heart, and because that's where the blood goes through. So I did it on a hologram of myself, and I just start to notice over time how it felt. So, and I just kept my objective and also the control working. I just noticed things were getting lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Vivian said, "What control did you test on the blood?" Oh, I've just told you that. Did the soul? This is Renee. I did the soul code with you. I did not realize that was the higher self.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Renee, can the Russian knowledge bypass astrological influences of the planet? Yes, because you change what's happening in your consciousness, because we're in an information field. So certainly astrology signs
is external coming in.
External coming in, but we can still change the information in conscious.
In the internal.
Yeah, absolutely. Renee said, I meant if the Russian knowledge neutralized the astrological influence of the planets in our system in different astrology houses. Yes, the Russian knowledge can change any information that's happening, because, for instance, if you've got something that's happening in one of, say it's your house to do with relationships, and you're experiencing challenges, then you can change what's happening in your relationships, because you're changing the information, the original data that's affecting that. Certainly you can be aware, but astrology is the map of what's happening, and it's not this is the be all and end all. You can still change that. Your thoughts can change it, anything in a moment. So absolutely. Aris Ragu said, feel more awake than when I started the call. Good. Well, it was only, 7 o'clock in the morning for them. Oh, that was a bit early. So,
thanks for being up, guys.
Thanks for being up. Robin, the next morning, Robin, energy body feels squeaky clean now. Yeah. Good. Deborah said, love this energetic matrix recentering. Feel more back in myself and clear and grounded. Saw big changes from the boulder in the first matrix to light radiating from the center of the creator matrix when complete. I do the 80 dimensions several times a day, and this is icing on the cake. So thank you. Yeah, I feel like
it was another layer.
It was another layer, and so I'm certainly going to do this one first before I do anything else of that recentering. Helena said, "What would you?" I don't quite understand what that word says. What do you use something in Russian knowledge to help clear geopathic stress, please, in the body? What would we have just done help? Thank you. So, yeah, absolutely. Realigning yourselves in your energy body. But remember, we still use the other bodies that we've still got the physical body, we've still got the emotional body, the mental body, the causal body, which is like your outer aura. And the causal body is your past life, genetic stuff.
Your karma stuff.
And your etheric body is like your outside aura. So what I would notice is how your body is feeling, and then notice how it feels after you've realigned and all those bodies, and notice what's changing.
We could also realign the chemical body too.
You could realign the chemical body.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how quick that shifted things.
Yeah. So this is all about playing and noticing what changes. So have a play with that, Helen, and yes, certainly let us know, Helena, how that actually works for you. Deborah says again, love. Oh, have I got to that? Oh, no, sorry, we've just done that. Good. So that sort of handles all the questions in reference so far. So let's have a look. What else are we going to talk about?
Cylinder of ice.
Cylinder of ice.
The best control on the planet.
Well, Brian puts everything into the cylinder of ice.
Yes, relationships,
projects. Health issues. Now, when we first learnt the tools, I always practiced them on my physical body. But as I've said to some of you, we're more than just our physical 3D presence. We're multidimensionally. So now we do our practice usually on a hologram of ourselves. So when we're doing this cylinder of ice on a particular objective relating to our physical body, then we imagine seeing the hologram. Now, I did a little test while I was in Singapore, and I said to the guys, okay, well, let's work physically. Let's imagine we were working on our liver, and we actually imagine taking the liver out of our physical body and placing it into the cylinder of ice with the information about regenerating or restoring our liver function to the creator's norm. So that was the thing. So we went through that control using the cylinder, and then I said, okay, now let's try something different. Let's do the same objective, but do it as if when you're working on your hologram. So you imagine taking the information or your liver out of your hologram and placing it into the cylinder of ice, and notice what's different. And they all came back and said they felt it was more powerful when they did it on the hologram. So that was really interesting, and because when you're the observer of something, like when you're a practitioner and you're working on your client, you're not emotionally involved in it, you're not censoring anything or getting involved mentally from it. But when you are working on your hologram, it's like you're objective around it. You can sense what changes. Your physical body will give you some indication what might have shifted, but you're working on it. You can notice that if there's light changing or whatever. So this it's nice to do. So let me just explain the cylinder of ice again, because some people were not clear about the cylinder of ice, and it's such an easy visualization. I just wanted to talk about this. The cylinder of ice is a construction that is at the front of our heart area, roughly. That's where it's located. It's a 2 centimetre, so a very small cylinder of ice that below the cylinder has a piece of paper that captures all negative information, and below the paper is a golden sphere, and it captures all the transformed droplets that happen from the cylinder of ice. Now I can see Brian smiling. What?
Well, Why does it have to be only 2 centimetres? It's really hard to get you inside that.
In your consciousness, Brian, you can imagine that I'm small, or you can take the information
I
structure.
can make it bigger.
You could squeeze it to a dot and put it in there. How's that? You can do whatever you want. You can do that. So, but that's the construction. That's the
All
actual,
jokes aside.
Yeah, all jokes aside. So, so you could place. So, for instance, our objective was restoration of the liver. You can either, as I said before, imagine taking the liver if you know what the liver looks like or where it comes from, or you can just take the information structure about the liver function not being in the norm, and you place it into the cylinder, and you notice or sense in your consciousness as the cylinder starts to melt. And when you get a feel or you see that the cylinder has completely melted and that all the negative information is captured on the paper, you scrunch up the piece of paper and you throw it outside your 5-meter sphere. Now, your 5-meter sphere is placing it into what they call the macro area. Your 5-meter sphere is where you do all your creating with everything that turns up in your life. So you throw the scrunched up piece of paper outside into the macro area, into the silvery cube of the creator, and this is where negative information goes for further development. Underneath that, the transformed information about for instance, in this case, the liver being restored to the creator's norm, the droplets have gone through the paper and into the sphere below. You take the sphere and then place it either back into the area, in this case we're talking about the liver, so you can place it back into the area of the liver. But if you don't know where the liver is, then just place it into your solar plexus, which is just where your diaphragm is. So just place it into the solar plexus area and it'll know exactly where to go back to it. So let's do this as a control. Let's do it on our liver, because the liver gets a bit of becomes a problem with having to deal with so much of the blood. Also, just a little aside, if you've got eye problems, sometimes it starts at the liver. If your liver is not functioning properly, then it affects the eyes. So let's do this as a control with restoration of my liver function. We're going to do it on the hologram of ourselves, but first we'll need to go back and change the past. Before that, because we've already opened up a control previously with I'm in Spirit and Rescue and Harmonious Development, we don't need to say it again when we're doing controls in one session. But we do need to go back to 1 hour before the trigger of why our liver was not functioning in the norm. So let's just do that, and then I'll walk you through then using the cylinder of ice. So we go back to 1 hour before the trigger of why our liver was not functioning in the norm. I did not participate in the upcoming events. I went my way, the bright path of the Creator. All the participants and events went their bright paths. Our paths did not cross. I sent a light impulse from my soul and a light impulse from the Creator's soul, and I fixed the result according to all parameters of creation and on all levels of reality, now and for all times. Now we're going to take either the information or the actual physical or the liver from our hologram, and we're going to place it in the structure of the cylinder of ice. So imagine taking the information about your liver impairment or the actual liver itself and placing it into the cylinder. And in your consciousness, either see or sense as the negative information is melted away in the cylinder, and you notice that the cylinder starts to melt, that the negative information is being trapped on the piece of paper below the cylinder. Also sense, or for those who have visualized, that the transformed droplets of your liver being restored to the Creator's norm are dripping through the paper and into the golden sphere below. So while we're watching that, remember your objective. So hold in your consciousness your objective, restoration of my liver to the Creator's norm. And at the same time, I want you to focus on watching the structure of the cylinder of ice as it's going through all the repair. So important, hold your objective, and also hold what you're noticing in your consciousness with the structure of the cylinder of ice, the information. We're going to hold this for a minute because this is the minimum time you would spend on a control. So hold your objective, restoration of my liver to the Creator's norm, and also at the same time notice as the cylinder is melting, all the negative information about your liver function is being kept on the paper, and the transformed information is now dropping into the sphere below. Hold your objective, restoration of my liver to the Creator's norm. So you're doing two things. So then we finish the control by taking the sphere and placing it back into the hologram of the area where we took the information from. So you either place it back into the area of your liver or you place it back into your solar plexus and notice what's happening in your physical body. You might notice it as a warmth, you might notice as a shift, you mightn't even notice anything at all. But your physical body is your sensory organ that gives you feedback on how things are going. Once you've done that, then you finish the control by saying, I send a light impulse from my soul and a light impulse from the Creator, and we fix the result according to all parameters of creation on all levels of reality, now and for all times, at whatever time it is there for you, on the 3rd of May 2015. Mm-hmm. Now, when you send light to it, you're actually sending impulses of light. Your thoughts, when you're thinking, I'm sending an impulse of light, actually releases photons into physical reality, and it's like you're sending light to it. You're sending light to help to restore. So you're actually doing something, and also the Creator. Be interested to hear what you've noticed with that after you've done the control, what anybody noticed. Some people sometimes notice that the area of the liver lightens up, or they notice a shift or whatever. So it'll be interesting to hear from people what you noticed while we were doing that. So that's probably one of Brian's favourite tools, and it was one that he practiced everything on. So, for instance, you could use this control. We've been talking about blood. So you could harmonize your blood system. So you can imagine taking either the information structure as a piece of geometry. So see the information of your liver as it is now. And normally when you ask to see it as a geometric shape, when it's out of harmony, it's not always like a perfect sphere or a perfect cube. It's usually not, it's sort of jagged or out of shape. So you take the information structure and you can place that into...
It's like an ink blot.
Yeah. Or an ink blot, yeah, Brian said. Or you can imagine just taking the blood system and placing it into the liver. So you could also look at the components of your blood system. You can also look at the heart area. You can also put the arteries and veins in there, all sorts of different things. These are the things that we do when we practice, even if we haven't got an impairment with the area. So and we start to notice. So I'll be interested to hear if people noticed anything happened or what with that. So if anything, you noticed anything, please pop that in the question box, and we're happy to do that. Now, something that came up, which was Sarah made a comment to me during the week. Do I illuminate the control after each step up, for instance, as stepping out of foreign events and also going back and changing the past? Now, the stepping out of foreign events and going back and changing the past are like two controls in a major control. If you got to the end of stepping out of foreign events and didn't say, according to all parameters of creation, you could just say, I send a light impulse and fix and illuminate the control. So you could just leave it simple. But at the end of the control, we always finish it up, because what we're doing is sending our light and the Creator's light, that whatever our objective is with what this tool that we've used, is that now it's fixed. And when we say according to all parameters of creation, we're meaning wherever we are in time and space, or whatever dimension we're on, that we're fixing that today on this date, that this is the objective that we set, and it's already done. And that's why we record it. And as I've mentioned before, is why I have put at the back of all your manuals your personal objective area, or your personal, where you can just place what you've done as your objective against which tool and what date. And if you've gone back and changed the past, and then you make a comment and notice, okay, I haven't seen a result, maybe I need to do another tool which will open up another area of your consciousness. So it's about documenting and noticing, because you'll forget what you do if you don't write it down.
Consciousness is interesting like that. It deletes release often.
Yeah, absolutely. Helena said, I feel lighter and the room seems brighter. Oh, great.
Very cool.
Veta says, I feel a warm sensation in the liver area. Great. Brilliant. Eva said, my liver feels lighter. Great. Laura said, Brian, I feel the cylinder of ice is larger than 2 centimetres also. Is that okay? Love this control. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
Make
can
it as big as you need it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's fine.
Yeah, let's face it, how do you put Marion in it if it's only that small?
Be nice, or I'll stick you in it too. So some good feedback. Now, if you didn't get some feedback, it doesn't mean that it hasn't worked for you.
It's Deborah saying.
What's Deborah saying? So saying, oh, it hasn't worked, I'm not feeling anything. It has worked.
Mm-hmm.
So Deborah says that there's warmth at the end of the liver and a lot of shifting in my energy body, and the cranial's moving too.
Very
Did
cool.
a quick crumple up and throw the paper before bringing the golden sphere into liver place too. Good.
Yep.
That's great. They're good all feedback. Vivian said felt a warm sensation. So that's a result. That's a result.
Tick the box.
Tick a box. Like the result was I felt a warm sensation in my liver.
That's enough.
Yeah, so you're not making it up. There's actually something that's happening. So if you have a problem with a liver area, for instance, and you've felt a little bit warmth, and you start to notice what's shifting in it, is your energy getting more, is your energy body or your energy levels in your body get quite restored to the norm. If you're not got to that area, okay, you need to go back and do the control again. And each time you do, you add more light to that particular thing that you're working on. Doesn't mean that you're negating that it has worked in your consciousness. It means that you're just turning up the light that you're sending to that particular objective. So they're all good things to realise and practice, because it's a bit of a journey for all of us as to what turns up and what changes in our consciousness. Okay, so here we are at the end of our webinar today, but there's just a couple of things that I want to mention.
From our sponsors.
A message from our sponsors. No. We've got our next Global Soulcast webinar series. So that's, as you know, 4 2-hour webinars that we're starting in June. These are live, so they're not recorded. They're a live series. If you know anybody that you who's been wanting to do it live with us, then here's where it's going to happen. This will be up on our website by Monday. So at the moment it's not there. Transformation workshop for the people that are in Melbourne
or in Australia
and want to come. We're in a couple of weekends for the people that have done a workshop with us, we have a special revision price for students.
Actually, you don't have to be in Australia if you want to come. You're
Yeah, very well. You're very welcome.
We've had people fly in from the UK for it. We've had people fly in from Asia for it.
Yeah, New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Just to remind the Singapore people, because there's some Singapore people on this morning and tonight. We're not back until January. So here is Transformation. Here are the dates, and also Infinitude. We're back there. Our next free global masterclass will be on Sunday, the 3rd of July. I will send you out.
Or for the US, isn't it Saturday?
No, it's still the same.
Okay.
So we do 2 webinars generally. We do one in the morning, and then we do one in the evening at 7 p.m. And that caters for the Melbourne time. That caters for the people that are in the UK and in Europe, because it would be about 2 in the morning by now for them. So we will. All the sessions are recorded, and also you get an opportunity to listen. Of course, happy to answer any.
And if you're in Singapore or Malaysia, you're very welcome to join us tonight again.
Yes, absolutely. But just to finish up, any more questions? I haven't seen anybody that wanted to chat to me in the chat box today. There's no hands up. If you have any questions that we haven't covered today that you need answered, please certainly put up your hand, or if you'd like to drop a message into the question box if we haven't. Otherwise, thanks everybody for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Have fun practicing, and we will see you next time.
And please enjoy your weekend.
Yes. Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.
That went all right.